type of work you're looking for. We really encourage chat box engagement. So please use that chat box and let us know where you're joining us from today and what type of work you're looking for. We'll begin shortly. Welcome to Job Club. We're delighted you joined us today. Our in-person audience here in Lexington at Fayette Cooperative Extension. You'll get the benefit of after Job Club, having an opportunity to practice our 30-second commercials and some one-on-one time with our career coaches. We also welcome our virtual audience and our Facebook Live audience. We're thrilled that you're with us today. We have a wonderful speaker in store. We will begin shortly. We'll go ahead and begin our slides for today. Here's our agenda. After our welcome, we always have time for success stories. We love hearing success stories. We've heard several this morning. So if you have had a success recently, maybe you've updated your resume, perhaps you've had an interview, or some of you have actually landed positions since last time. Please let us know. Send us an email, share with us in the chat box now. Let us know your successes. We love hearing those. We'll have our main speaker. We'll share active job leads. We'll have some partner updates. Then we'll let you know who's on deck for next time at Job Club. The mission of Job Club is to provide a positive environment for job seekers to network and learn best practices for the job search. We meet the second and the fourth Tuesday of the month, and you can find our schedule of topics at www.ukalumni.net/Job Club and also on our Partner Extensions website. Our team of facilitators, I'm Caroline Francis, Director of UK Alumni Career Services. I'm joined by Diana Doggett, Extension Specialist, Special Projects. We also have Amy Gamblin, Associate Director of Alumni Career Services. Nicole Waite, Employment Specialist with UK Steps. We have Christy Kaufman and Lindsay Cottle. We have Sunny Saylor and Suzanne Smith, all helping bring Job Club to you today. So we're very grateful for our team of people making this possible. Job Club is currently hosted in a hybrid format, in person here at Fayette County Cooperative Extension Office in Lexington, where there's convenient parking right at the door. Zoom webinar, we have a chat moderator available today, and Facebook Live, but that is a view-only option on Facebook Live. There's no chat moderator, and you won't be signed up for the newsletter on Facebook Live. So you do need to be in Zoom webinar to receive our newsletter. We encourage you to review our free Job Club resource packet with lots of good information. You can find that in the newsletter afterwards, a link to it, as well as on our website. We also encourage you to join our LinkedIn. It's Central Kentucky Job Club sharing community on LinkedIn. We get job leads every day, and some of those are timely. So we post those on the LinkedIn site. We also encourage recruiters and employers to use that site to post their jobs, and they certainly do. There's quite a bit of activity for all types of jobs on that LinkedIn group. So we hope that you'll also join that group and really comb 2 or 3 times a week as part of your job search what's coming up. Always keeping in mind that if a company comes on there that you may not be familiar with, certainly follow up with the company or go to their website. There might be additional opportunities that you could learn about directly from the company. Employers and recruiters are always welcome at Job Club. In-person employer guests may have a 1-minute spotlight to share active job leads. We also will have an opportunity for any employers that are virtual to share active job leads at the end of today's program. Do watch your email later that today we'll send a follow-up newsletter with job leads that have been sent to us in the last couple of weeks. That'll come out later today. Some attendees are conducting a confidential job search, so we do ask that you respect the privacy of people's names that you may see in the chat box or see in person at Job Club. Do check out the job search related articles included in the email that I just mentioned. Recordings and the PowerPoint slides are available afterwards on the UK website, ukalumni.net/job club. Welcome to our first timers. You'll receive a short survey following today's meeting that will get you in the system where you'll receive a reminder before each job club. We also have some first timers here in our audience. I'd like to welcome all of our first timers. If you're a first timer, mention that in the chat box if you're virtual. For those that are here live, welcome. Success stories. We love hearing your success stories. Please put those in the chat box now and we'll share success stories. We've had 2 or 3 that have been shared with us in the last day or so. We're going to get more details and present those next time to you. But we have been very excited to hear some success stories just in the last 2 weeks since people have attended Job Club either in person or virtually, that they have landed some jobs. So that's what we're all about, helping people make smoother transitions, giving tools and resources. Anything in the chat box we want to share? All right. Well, do let us know when you've landed a new position or had an interview. We want to celebrate with you your successes. Now on to our guest speaker. Without further delay, I'm so excited about today's guest speaker. Had the opportunity of meeting Arthur at a conference last spring in Southern California, and he is graciously sharing his expertise today with us. He also is a UK alum, so it's always nice to spotlight our UK alumni, and we so appreciate them giving back to our Big Blue Nation. Arthur Hughes brings a strong background as an engineer and executive to his approach to business as a problem solver. In his career, he's been a corporate executive and hiring manager in the automotive industry, an avid job seeker working in 9 different companies, and is now in his 2nd career working as an executive recruiter, career coach, and university teacher, helping to connect great people with great companies. His mantra is, old keys will never open new doors. Love that. And his ability to leverage diverse experience in all phases of job search, along with the new and the next in technology and best practices, makes him a unique resource in talent acquisition and career coaching. Arthur is a proud graduate of the University of Kentucky, where he majored in chemical engineering, and he also earned his MBA from the University of Findlay in organizational leadership. But perhaps most interesting about Arthur is he is a budding actor. He's worked on multiple productions of television, movies, and series as a background actor and hopes to claim his 15 minutes to fame. And you may happen to notice him on the Hallmark Channel with some holiday movies or on a Netflix show that's just recently come out. We are thrilled to have Arthur. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today and sharing your expertise.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate that and the introduction to the group. First of all, I'd like to say just thanks overall. I really have obviously a love for the University of Kentucky. I definitely bleed blue. I'm definitely licking my wounds after this weekend and the football game, of course, with Georgia. But I really am excited to talk to you today about job search and kind of what's going on in today's climate. So before I really go into my introduction, I wanted just to mention, and I'm going to address the why me part of it. And so I have a history of pivoting to achieving my goals, primarily through networking. And that's one of the constant themes that we'll talk about today through this presentation. So obviously, I was a graduate from the chemical engineering program from the University of Kentucky. I'm also proud to say that I have inflicted that onto my son. So my son got his graduate degree in physical therapy from UK a few years ago as well. So when I graduated from school at UK, I realized actually I didn't want to be a chemical engineer, funny enough. And I started to try to find a different job in a different area. And I ended up in a marketing engineering position in the utility industry. After a few years, I realized I didn't want to do that. And that's going to be the constant theme that you're going to hear from me today in terms of this background, is I've done a lot of pivots. And one thing I would like to tell you is that pivoting is awesome in job search. It can be very scary. A lot of people don't want to do it, but you can be very successful at it. And we'll talk about some strategies for that too. But one of my customers actually asked me to move from kind of the salesy type job that I was in into purchasing. And I actually pivoted at that point to join that customer. And really my career took off at that point. Found something I really liked to do. I was quite successful at it. And then I was actually decided I was going to start chasing the corporate, or climbing the corporate ladder. I called it chasing a paycheck, because that's really what I was focusing on, was my the salary basically that I had. And I was quite successful at that. And a lot of it had to do with networking. As Caroline mentioned, I've worked for 9 different companies, which is a little bit unusual for somebody in my age group. And I was able to do that through successful networking. At the end of my first career, I will call it, I enjoyed the opportunity to go through corporate burnout. So we went through restructuring and acquisition, and it was just a horrible experience for me. And I decided to pivot out of automotive industry, which is pretty unusual to do. I was at a vice president level, and it's quite hard to pivot out of the industry, but I did. Networking again, and was able to connect with somebody that actually got me a position in the pharmaceutical industry, which I loved for a while. Ended up getting recruited to a company and working for a gentleman who, quite frankly, he and I didn't align at all. And basically things went from kind of bad to worse. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a break. And I decided to take a sabbatical, and I quit that job. And at that time, a friend of mine who was my executive recruiter asked if I wanted to help. I said, you know what, I can do that for a little bit, just until I figured out what I want to do in my next role. And I joke with people, I was planning a 6-month sabbatical, and I'm now 4.5 years into my 6-month sabbatical. But what has been wonderful about that, though, was I found out that executive recruiting was something that I really enjoyed doing. I love connecting people and companies. But it also gave me an opportunity to do more things. I was able to start to work at the university here as a student mentor, networked my way into a part-time faculty position, and now I started doing career coaching as well. So I take on clients, individual clients, and help them with career development and job search. So as Caroline said, I have a pretty diverse history of being an avid job seeker, working at 9 different companies. I've been a hiring manager. I've interviewed and reviewed resumes from probably thousands of different people. And as a recruiter, of course, now it's really an opportunity to work with people and learn a lot about job search and what companies are looking for. And I'm going to be able to share a lot of that with you today. So there we go. So moving on to the agenda for what we're going to talk about today, the prospect of, or the theme here is show up and show out. And what we're going to do before we dive in, I really want to dispel a couple of myths about job interviews. And we're going to build up to a crescendo of talking about interviews, but we're going to spend just only a couple of slides on interviews, believe it or not, because interviewing is not just about that day. I want to share the vital perspective that I have. Interviewing is a process, and over 90% of that process is not done on the day itself. It's done before that, and it's actually getting yourself ready for it mentally, and then also physically, so to speak, with research and getting all of the things that you typically would do for an interview. So preparation is absolutely key to success in the process. Mental and emotional preparedness is also very key. Being calm, composed, and confident in an interview isn't an accident. It's all about preparation, both mentally and actually doing the research that you need to do. In addition to that, we're going to talk about personal branding and how your online presence can show your professionalism. The modern job search today is about personal branding. It's about how you show up online, and we'll talk a lot about that too. As I said, though, networking really is going to be the key, and it is the most important thing that you can do to job search. I'm a perfect example of that and how to be successful in networking and how you can actually make big pivots in your career through networking and community engagement. And then the other thing that we'll talk about as we get to the close of this is understanding and expressing your professional worth through the interview process. So let's talk about the jobs landscape today. So, over the last couple of years, we've heard about, perhaps most people have heard the term, the Great Resignation. Well, obviously in the last year, that's really started to kind of fade out, and people moving from job to job is slowing considerably. In fact, August was the lowest level of quitting since July of 2020. It still seems very high, and we still talk about the number of people moving, but actually the number of people moving is pretty consistent with the last 10-year averages. And so what we have now is we've got kind of a normalization, if you will, of people moving in the industry and things like that. So today, we still do have what a lot of people think is a very positive market. The cracks are showing and actually widening depending on the particular industry we're looking at. So we were at a peak of 11.5 million jobs at one point open. Now we're back down to 9.6. And there's about 6.5 million people who are unemployed. So it looks like we have a very strong job market. And in fact, you may have heard late last week that the job market added 336,000 jobs, which was great, at least on the surface. But if you dig into that a little bit, you'll start to see some of those cracks that I mentioned. So most of those jobs, 70% in fact, were in the government industry, healthcare, and hospitality. And healthcare and hospitality are important to mention because you've got a lot of people in those two industries in particular who want to get out of those industries and move into other ones. And so those jobs, very high stress. A lot of people are not actually looking into those positions. So that's why there's a lot of positions open there. Conversely, the professional services and IT area are actually going the opposite direction. Those markets are slowing considerably, losing steam, or in fact, in the IT industry, the unemployment rate in the IT industry is that's about 4.3% now. So it's actually becoming a little bit more difficult. And then, of course, overall, we've got a lot of macro factors, and I'll talk about a little bit more about that, like the UAW strike and other things that have gone on that really are impacting the market too and creating a lot of concerns. And a lot of this has an impact on job search because companies are starting to get a little nervous and they're starting to pull back a little bit on their hiring activities. So I really like this graph. This is by Bamboo HR, and it really echoes a lot of other studies that are going on right now. So according to Gallup did a survey during the summer, 80% of Americans are dissatisfied with how things are going. So we talked about the Great Resignation. One of the new terms I've heard coming out now is the Great Gloom, if we can just get a little bit dark for a second. And what we're talking about there is job satisfaction just continues to drop, and this graph shows it pretty well. This is called the Employee Net Promoter Score, and it really is a job satisfaction index, and it shows that job satisfaction has dropped by 8% since 2019, which there's been a lot of stuff going on since then. So I think we understand a lot of the drivers for that. But as we start to talk about this, we talked about, like I said, if you start looking at individual sectors, you really start to see some issues. Technology sector is going the wrong direction in terms of hiring. They're starting to pull things back. There's a lot of pressure, return to work orders. Companies are starting to take remote and hybrid roles and move them back into the office, which people are not very happy about. Obviously, salary increase, the inflation and salaries are not moving in the same direction or as quickly as people would like to see. And so there's a lot of concerns also about potential recession and other global market concerns that are going on. And I think some of the scariest things that we can see in this kind of thing is that when we talk about some of the sectors like education and healthcare, these are two of the most stressed industries. People feel overworked, underpaid, underappreciated. In healthcare, sadly enough, healthcare is the unhappiest industry on the list that Bamboo HR actually measures. And of course, there are other macro and micro challenges as well going on in the landscape. So the challenges for today's job seeker, obviously things like intense competition, the geography and location, because sometimes the jobs aren't where you want to be and people are not willing to relocate for various reasons. Burnout, bias and discrimination, and one of the newest is AI and job search. People are quite concerned about how that's going to impact them personally in terms of maybe taking their jobs, but also from a job search perspective, AI is now becoming a big piece of that. And one of the things that a lot of people get concerned about is the use of AI in job search in selecting people and how that might impact the process. So I know this all sounds pretty scary and it's not really intentional. I just kind of wanted to set the frame for things. And so do we have a great gloom? Yeah, it all depends on your position individually. And I think all of us can look at this as an opportunity. And what can you do about it? I think we can take advantage of it. Now, hopefully we can take a lot of this negative energy and we can create some positive energy out of it to fuel your job search. We're going to try to create a roadmap of success for you. And hopefully we'll be able to pack direction, drive, and start bringing a confidence level for you so that you can really tackle this yourself. And the first piece of that is starting to think about self-care. So mental and emotional resilience is a really big piece of it. And the really important thing to take away from this is your attitude and how you handle this and how you present yourself, how you show up. And the show up and show out type thing in my presentation here is very, very critical to job search success. So regardless of anything else we're going to talk about, the thing that you need to do or we need to do most important is to take care of ourselves and make sure that we're ready to launch this process in the right way. So we've got a lot of stress points that we have to deal with. Obviously, going through this process, we know that we're going to get rejection, and what we do with that is going to be really important. The other side of it is the effect on our mental health. We can't let this affect and impact our self-worth and self-confidence. We have to realize that this is a process. I mean, if we think of it sort of in sports terms, if you don't get selected, as the first choice, what are you going to do about that? And not everybody is Michael Jordan or LeBron James, to kind of use some basketball euphemisms here, but you have to remember that there's a lot of opportunities out there, and we have to continue to be very positive and working with that to generate energy out of that process. And the psychological impact of competition can't be minimized at all. We have a lot of people that really go through struggles with this, feeling not good enough or falling behind their peers. And what we do with that is going to be really, really important. So some strategies for self-care. We have to understand that job search is a marathon and not a sprint. And we also have to realize that we're going to be competing against people that are equally qualified. So how we show up is going to be extremely important in this process. And the other thing we have to do is we've got to pursue what I call a search life balance, right? We talk about work-life balance all the time, and a search life balance is also extremely important. We have to stay grounded. We have to make sure we take time for ourselves to basically recenter and refocus. The other thing we need to do is we need to embrace rejection, and we need to celebrate small victories in the journey. So building that resilience will be really important for us as well. And finally, I want to talk about harnessing some external support. It's really important. I mean, coming to a group like this is a great way of starting to build a network and engage with support. And you have to recognize that failure is not failure. Failure can be actually the first step to success. And taking that positive attitude is really important. So the one thing I also want to touch on is professional support. Seek that when you need it, both from a counseling perspective, but also from a job search perspective. I think a lot of people, they think that they can't afford to pay for professional support during this kind of a process because they're not getting an income, right? You have to think of it as an investment. And if you're struggling in a certain area, you have to really be self-reflective and understand where those challenges might be occurring. And think about tools, your marketing tools, your resume, your LinkedIn page. If you're struggling, if you're not getting the kind of interest that you're hoping for, perhaps those might be things you might want to look at professional support for. Interview coaching as well. So I do this kind of thing, but there are a ton of wonderful professionals out there that can help. And you should think of this as an investment in yourself. And if it speeds up your job search, if you're able to land a job 1, 2, 3 months faster, obviously that could be a good return on your investment. So it can accelerate your job search if done well. And you should really consider that if you are struggling. And I think the one thing I really want to make sure that people really understand when they're going through this process, a lot of people very much think about it's about me. And I want to encourage you to understand that this is not about you, it's about them. So as we go through this job search process, you need to have the frame of mind of positioning yourself to be the best candidate for the role or for them. And if you're able to do that, you're able to gain a little bit of perspective, perhaps, on what a hiring manager or a recruiter might be looking for. And that's what we're really looking for here in this process, is that you're focusing and targeting to meet the expectations of the hiring manager and the recruiter in these processes. Okay. And one of the best ways you can do that is to start thinking about your personal branding. So in essence, personal branding in job search is about understanding your strengths, your values, your passions, and presenting them in a way that distinguishes you from other candidates. So it's the impression that remains with the employer or the hiring manager or the recruiter after the interactions, making them think of you when opportunities arise, right? You want to be memorable through the process. And so in order to distinguish yourself, you need to think about personal branding. And alignment is very, very critical with this. This is not about the sort of a social media piece of it and what you look like on social media, although that's a big component. But you have to remember that your personal brand has to be aligned with what the expectations and needs are of the them that I just mentioned. And if you're able to do that, you'll be able to start to get noticed by people in social media through LinkedIn and things like that. And also that branding needs to continue through the way you present yourself through the entire interview process as well. The one thing I will caution you, though, is social media. Social media, and we're talking about more than just LinkedIn, but LinkedIn as well. Let's talk a little bit about some of the statistics around this. So 92% of companies use social media to recruit candidates. Now, most of that is with LinkedIn, but some use Facebook and some use what we'll call it the formerly known Twitter instead of X. But there are other tools, there are other social media things out there, and companies use these, of course, to try to attract talent to their organization and find talent that can fit the roles they're looking for, of course. What you also need to know is that 70% of employers look up potential candidates on social media, and we do it as a recruiter as well. So if we get to a point where we're actually interviewing 3 to 5 candidates, we've targeted those for potential hiring, we're actually going to do a social media search on these people. And you need to remember that that is happening, or you need to realize that that is happening. So make sure you clean up your social media accounts, make sure that you're presenting yourself, your personal brand again, in the right way so that you don't come up as a negative flag in that process. Because it matters. 55% of employers who use social media screenings have said that they do not hire people based on some of the findings that they uncover. And we are the same. We've actually kicked out several people in our searches because of very unfavorable, let's call it, presence on social media. And it really is something that is very important, and you need to make sure that you're that your social media presence is cleaned up or it represents you in a positive light. Now, I'll tell you that, I'm not telling you to kind of hide who you are or be fake or anything like that. I just want you to understand there are consequences to your presence on social media. So if you're extremely passionate about a subject, whether it's politics or religion and things we don't talk about in hiring, that's okay. Just remember, though, that your position on social media and how you present yourself could have a negative impact because a hiring manager may have a differing point of view with you. So as long as you realize that and you still want to do that, that's perfectly fine, and understand that. I also before I leave this slide, I also wanted to touch on 78% of employers also look up current employees from time to time, believe it or not. So social media and the presence or the trail that you leave is extremely important for you to realize that you do have an impact, even though you may not think so. So moving on from that, so personal branding, you'll note that included in that is networking. And networking, quite frankly, is the number one thing that you can do to improve your odds of landing a new position. And why is that important? Well, and what's important is you need to activate your network to be an advocate for you, to be a participant, a team member in your job search process. So as we look at this, most jobs are sourced in what is sort of collectively sort of an ominous term. It's called the hidden job market. What this means, though, is that, and 70% of jobs are sourced in this way, what it means is that many jobs are sourced without actually being publicly searched for through the normal search methods that you think of. Because many positions are hired through internal promotion or a lateral move, direct contacts, meaning the first level network of these people. So a hiring manager knows somebody and then they bring them in for this position, excuse me, or through a second level. So a second level referral or word of mouth that someone might come into. Sometimes it's a traditional sort of referral program within a company. And so employers or hiring managers are actually hiring sort of in this arrow from the top down. The problem is most job seekers are actually going the opposite direction, and they're spending the majority of the time on job boards, recruiting, trying to work with recruiters or get in touch with recruiters and looking at advertisements. And so this is where sort of the disconnect comes, and this is where networking is extremely important. And so when I talk about networking, well, the traditional approach is like kind of how you would visualize going through the front door of a business. And that's sort of the traditional approach, right? And you can think of Indeed and LinkedIn and these job boards as the front door. The side door is sort of this second level networking that I just mentioned. And, you're actually connecting with somebody that actually can know somebody in the organization and could be a recruiter, even a third-party recruiter like me. And they're going to help get you inside the business, but it's going to be through the side door. What you're really looking for, though, here is really trying to get in through the employee entrance or the back door, so to speak. And that really is this first level contact, this direct level with the recruiter, or more importantly or better is going to be actually making a connection with the hiring manager itself. And of course, basically the reason we're trying to do all of this and why networking is so important is the further you network, the more successful you are at networking, you will increase your chance of success in landing a new role. So continuing along with networking, the three areas of focus really are going to be harnessing, first of all, is this online presence. And this is really about your personal branding. You need to really build a robust LinkedIn profile. You need to start engaging on LinkedIn as well. So having engaging posts, engaging with posts from other people, joining common groups in your area, things, common interests that you have, and interacting with company and industry leaders. Of course, you also should leverage your alumni network, which obviously we are doing today, hopefully, but also think about industry-specific forums for connection and insight. And when we talk about active participation online, we can also talk about that in hand with in-person events. So things like this is, again, perfect for it. But trying to find the right people, the strategic outreach and engagement is going to be very important. And so what we're going to be focusing on when we're doing that is actually finding people that are doing the jobs that you're currently searching for today in the companies that you're interested in, and starting to do some strategic outreach and engagement, working with those people, connecting with those people to try to make those connections that are important to you, so you can learn more about the company. You can do this company research that we talk about for interview preparation, and you can start to learn more about the company culture, how these people got their jobs. And if you can connect with them, maybe they can even refer you into their organization. So the strategic outreach piece and engagement is going to be extremely critical. So, just doing your LinkedIn page is great. Starting to participate online is even better. And then the strategic connection with people that are in the jobs that you're looking to do, and hopefully with the hiring managers that are hiring for these positions, sort of will be the ultimate level of engagement that you're seeking to do. So moving on, one of the things that you can do to help you with this process is start to embrace technology in the job search. So LinkedIn has a great resource for searching. Most often, unfortunately, you have to join the premium level of LinkedIn, which is not an insignificant cost. So LinkedIn Premium offers some benefits that perhaps you don't have with the LinkedIn free version. So thinking about doing that and engaging in that is important. The other thing, though, is starting to target your marketing tools. So making sure that your resume and your LinkedIn profiles are actually targeted for what you want to do. A lot of people take these tools and they think it's sort of a snapshot of where they are today or where they have been in the past. And in fact, it actually is these are forward-looking documents, or they should be. So these should be positioned for the roles that you want, not what you have done in the past. And there are strategies around how you can do that. One of those is starting to leverage AI tools. So one of the beautiful things that generative AI, things like ChatGPT, has created for us is an opportunity for us to do sort of strategic one-on-one brainstorming. We can actually use these tools to help us with the job search process. We can use them to help us craft our resume in LinkedIn as well, although you have to be careful not to just use it as a tool and use the output as is. It's going to be extremely important that you're telling your story, and ChatGPT or whatever can't do that, but it can help. In addition to that, there's been some really cool new tools coming out through Udemy and Big Interview and some other firms. Udemy is one that I really like. It's an AI interview tool or communication tool, and it'll actually record you answering interview questions, and it'll give you feedback on that process. It's a fantastic tool and highly recommended for everyone here to research if you haven't looked at it yet. Generative AI also is a great tool for research, and it's extremely important that as you're targeting your tools and you're thinking about your opportunity to communicate with people through your networking or through interviewing, that you've done the due diligence and you understand the company that you're talking about to a very, very high level of detail. And then finally, using the tools to learn and upskill. So understanding what the requirements are for the position. If you have any gaps, try to fill those gaps as best you can. There are plenty of online resources where you can get certifications or take courses to learn much more about what you're looking to do. And even if you don't have the practical experience, being able to talk to it and talk to about how you're looking into it, how you've studied it, how you've and being able to sort of talk the talk are really important things to give confidence to the hiring manager that they're talking to somebody that can really do the job. So with all of that, now we're going to talk a little bit about interviewing. So here are some statistics. I don't use these intentionally to scare people, but I really do want to use these as emphasis for why research and bringing that positive mental resilience is important. So first of all, these are some of the things that hiring managers have said on why they don't hire people. So 10% get rejected for a poor handshake or a first impression. 2/3 of people struggle to make consistent eye contact. Nearly half of people fail the interview because they haven't done enough research on the company, and it shows up during the interview process. And 40% get rejected due to poor body language or displaying a lack of confidence or interest. So these are really important to know. And like I said, I don't really mean to scare you, but what we're doing here is just telling you why preparedness, why preparing is so important for this process. And you can do it. It just takes some time and effort. So 90% of interview success lies in preparation. I don't have any statistics, quote unquote, that says 90%. This is sort of Arthur's statistic, but being an interviewee, being an interviewer, and talking to people from a recruiting perspective, it's quite clear that the more you prepare for the process, it builds your confidence level, and it will show that you are interested in the position. So success is planning. Pre-interview preparation and research is really important. Using mock interview, these AI tools usually that I mentioned, you can do that, but also doing mock interviews with people in your network, with friends, family, although I don't recommend family too much because they won't necessarily give you that hard criticism that you may need, but you really do need to set your attitude, and the planning process will have a tremendous value in making you much more confident. And then, of course, about the execution, you need to bring the energy, enthusiasm. So when I talk about interviewing, I talk about the 3 E's for me, and that's energy, enthusiasm, and then, of course, execution. So you need to be in the execution phase. It's really important that you've done the preparation, so you have that confidence level, you understand the types of questions that'll be asked, and you've already prepared yourself on how you're going to answer those questions in advance. The other thing is, if you've brought that research and you've brought that preparation in here, you can actually breathe and think during the interview process because you've already done that pre-work. And then you can also answer slow and steady, again, because you have that confidence, you know what you're going to say in advance, and those things are really going to help you to show out in the interview process. So we talked about the 3 E's, energy, enthusiasm, and execution, and that's going to be support. Let's see. Okay, good. So from there, I just wanted to, I need to go back a slide. Christy, would you mind being able to move me back a slide one? Thank you. So personal branding is power in this process. And being able to demonstrate that you're prepared for the role and, excuse me, not prepared for the role, but being able to show that you're present in online and your personal branding is there is going to help you with getting clicked on, right? Getting selected for the process. In order to really do that, though, networking and outreach, these are must-have components in your job search. And then when people start to look at your tools, this first impression is very important. So tailored marketing strategies, your resume and your LinkedIn, these absolutely are winners for you in job search success. So embrace the modern tools, use them to help you. Make sure that why preparation is important is it gives you that confidence, and your mental resilience should be your North Star. So work on yourself first, that's your foundation, and then everything can be built up from there. So with that, I'm happy to take questions at this point, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speaking to everyone. Thank you very much, and we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Arthur. That was amazing. There's so much information packed into that presentation that I think we all, I was looking around and people were taking notes. And so
thank you so much.
about in our audience? I think that is a signal that you did such a good job. That's the amount of information that that this is pretty amazing. We do have something here. You gotta wait just a second.
What are a few common interview questions that everyone should be prepared to answer?
Yeah, the great question. What I usually coach people, there's sort of 8 questions that kind of come up, and they are honestly the typical questions that you sort of read about. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Obviously, the one that normally starts out an interview process is tell me a little bit about yourself, those kinds of things. So the reason these questions are very normal is because companies and people don't do a lot of interview training. So these are the typical stock questions people hear. And so they sort of think, okay, well, this is the questions I need to ask. So what you'll find is those types of questions are, are still pretty standard. And those will be the ones you should actually do some prepare for. And excuse me, one of the questions that is most difficult for people to answer is sort of what is your greatest weakness? And I think that's one people tend to stumble on quite often. And what a lot of people will do with that question is they'll try to turn sort of a positive into a weakness to say, oh, well, I just work so hard and I put so many hours in, and that's not what hiring managers are looking for. Hiring managers are looking for self-reflection in these types of questions. They want to have people understand being able to direct their answers for any of these questions and how that relates to them and their performance in that role that they're interviewing for. So it's really important that you craft your answer to these questions to be very targeted to the role. So however you're answering them, obviously using the STAR or CAR method, depending on how you learned it, being able to tell a story is going to be really important. The weakness question, just to come back to that one, as I said, it's not meant to be a trick question, but turns out to be a trick question for most people. It really is taking something, first of all, don't highlight something that's important to the role itself, right? So, make sure you don't do that, but it's an important opportunity to say, we're not perfect. This is something that I have had to work on, and this is what I've done to fix it. I know it's a weakness, but I'm conscious of it and I continue to work on it. So one of which that I have is I tend to want to get into the weeds with things for myself. So what I've learned to do is to prioritize my activities to make sure that even though I want to get into the weeds for things, I've learned to make sure that I process all the activities that I need to do. I create a priority list for myself and I focus on the main priorities. And when I do have time and I enjoy the opportunity to get into the weeds, then I'll let myself do that. But I do understand the importance of objectives, time deadlines, and things like that. So I make sure that my priority list helps me get those things done when I need to get them done. So answering something like that, as I said, is a very self-reflective opportunity, and you can show that you understand you have a weakness and you've understood that such that you've put together a process so that doesn't impair you in the workplace. So anyway, that's just sort of an example, but the other types of questions, as I said, they're all the pretty standard ones that you would find.
We have an online question.
Mm-hmm.
What if you don't know what you want to do next? Can you talk more about pivoting your career?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I work with students. I'm a mentor at the university, and this is a very common thing, not just for students, of course, but for everyone. Even for myself, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do at a certain point in my career too. One of the things I work with my own clients, and I've done myself, is I put together what I call a personal marketing plan. And this personal marketing plan really is about trying to determine what your interests are and then trying to make those interests align with potential job search opportunities. So all of us have a career and experiences, and hopefully we can build on that. And if you're still struggling with that, though, one thing that I suggest is that you start talking to people who are in your close network, mentors, particularly if you have those. Again, family and friends at this stage aren't necessarily great resources, although they can be insightful if you ask a question the right way. And one of those questions is, what do you see me doing? Based on based on what you know about me, what do you see me doing and what I might be successful at, and leaving it a little bit open-ended. Don't say, do you think I would be good at this? Because again, family and friends will probably say, yeah, sure, it would be great at that. But if you're able to ask these open-ended questions with people that perhaps know you best, you might actually get some interesting ideas as to what they think you might be good at that you might not be thinking of. In addition to that, I always recommend people sort of keep a journal of what they like to do and things that are interesting to them, and trying to perhaps pair those things together in such a way that it might give them a little bit of guidance as to particular industries they might be interested in, companies that resonate with them, things of that sort. And then starting to keep an active journal of those types of things. And then if you can do that, maybe you can start to develop a target list of industries that are interesting to you, do a little bit of research, find out what companies might be in that industry, and then start to do a little bit more narrowing of that using the AI tools perhaps, or using other traditional tools to do research about those companies and what kind of jobs might be in those areas. And so, it's not an easy question to answer sort of at a very high level. This is a very much a one-to-one discussion, but I hope those are some interesting thoughts that might give you an idea perhaps of, where to perhaps start for yourself.
All right. Well, I think, again, we just want to thank you for taking this time. We'll be looking for you this Christmas on some of the Hallmark movies, and it'll say we knew you win.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Arthur. For those of you that are in person and have further questions, feel free to stick around after this session concludes, and we will take time to network. We'll now transition into our last segments, and the first one is who's hiring. So if we have any employers that are in person, I don't think we do today in person, but if we have some online who would like to share some job leads, then please feel free to raise your hand and we'll allow you some time to speak.
May I go first?
You had a couple that you wanted to share with us.
Yes, I do actually. So as we said, I'm an executive recruiter, and I'm actually, we recruit in the automotive and aerospace industries nationwide. So unfortunately, I don't have anything in the Lexington area. But if you, if you're online or if you're perhaps open to relocation, I do have some positions we're working on. We're working with a client in Florida that's in the energy industry that is hiring several positions. We have a cost accountant position that's open there. We're also interviewing for several engineering roles and for and lab and quality positions in NDT, or non-destructive testing. So that's for that company in Florida. It's in the Tampa, Florida area. We also have a couple of operational leadership positions that we're recruiting for in aerospace, in the composites industry, although you don't have to have composites experience specifically. We're looking for a position sort of in Northwest Iowa for an operations leader, will be a director level position. We're still working with the client on that. And then we have a site general manager position in the Seattle, Washington area as well. Same company, so it's going to be aerospace and composites manufacturing as well. So a couple of operational positions, and then also the positions in Florida. So that's what I wanted to mention.
Thank you, Arthur. We do have a national presence now and Job Club. So if you'd like to send those to us, jobclub@uky.edu. We will post those as well as on our community LinkedIn site.
Awesome. I will do that.
All right. So we will, do we have any online? Anyone online that's wanting to make an announcement today? Okay, well, just remember that if you do have one and would like to post it, again, send those job leads to jobclub@uky.edu by noon today. And we will post those and make sure to include those in our job lead list that goes out in our newsletter later on this afternoon. All right, we want to talk about job facilitators and our programs and our ongoing resources that are available to you. And obviously, Cooperative Extension is one that you will want to take advantage of, research, and check out your local extension office for what's happening this fall. There are lots of opportunities to get involved, to learn, and to volunteer. So we just encourage you to do that. Certainly here at the Fayette County Extension Office, there is just an array of programming that you'll want to check out online, or stop by and just meet and greet the staff at every office. Normally, Nicole Waite is with us from UK STEPS. She could not be with us today, but fear not, she will be providing some really exciting and relevant job leads this afternoon in our newsletter. And Nicole is always available for you to reach out to if you're interested in employment with UK under the STEPS program, which is temporary employment, but can often lead to permanent positions. And again, UK Alumni Career Services, Amy and Caroline here and staff are here, and they want to encourage you that if you would like to go a little bit further in your job search, have some more detail, help with resume writing and interview tips, LinkedIn job search strategies, then you'll want to contact them and get one-on-one coaching services. So there's information in your packet if you're here in person. And for those of you that are online, there is a link to explore more of these services. So next time at Job Club, we're excited to invite for the first time Stacy Miller. She's the Director of Extension UK Human Resources, and her topic will be job search best practices, essentials for finding the right fit. And I think that's what we're all in search of. We want to get that job that just suits us individually. So we look forward to Stacy joining us and sharing her tips and strategies for doing just that. So join us on October 24th. And until then, check out our LinkedIn community LinkedIn site, as well as our archive of speakers and our website that will give you some encouragement. We've got our packet there. So make sure you take advantage of all that in your job search, and we look forward to seeing you next time.